This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, well, there's still a lot of discussion about the fake news bill. And interestingly, it is the Attorney General who will have the last say on whether or not posts on social media, for example, are defamatory or simply freedom of speech.
And the person who is going to decide which comment is inappropriate or not is the Attorney General, who is very touchy, I can say, when it comes to criticism, especially when that concerns himself.
Plans to install breakwaters in several areas of our coast have been condemned by experts who say it will forever change the nature of our coastal waters and have a huge impact on biodiversity.
The biodiversity is completely destroyed. There's no biodiversity alive within the area between the breakwaters and the coast.
There have been discussions over the last few days about a very controversial bill that is being discussed in Parliament, and that is going to curtail our freedom of speech. Now then, one of the MPs who's been very much aware of this going on is Irini Haralambidou from AKEL. She, of course, is a former journalist and broadcaster herself. Irini, tell me what you see as the biggest dangers if this bill goes through.
Well, it's totally about limitation of free speech, and it's not only about journalists, it's about the people. I mean, when they criticize a person in power, it's like we tell them, you have to think twice, otherwise you will be prosecuted. And the subjectiveness, for example, who is going to decide what is inappropriate as a comment?
Well, that, Irini, I have to say, was going to be my next question, because what I've read in the press seems to suggest it's a fudge again, open to many different interpretations.
Exactly. And the person who is going to decide which comment is inappropriate or not is the Attorney General, who is very touchy, I can say, when it comes to criticism, especially when that concerns himself. So this cannot be allowed. People must be able to express what they think, what they feel freely, and to have no fear when they do so. That's why we had organizations related to journalists that are protesting to the idea of this legislation. And that's why I referred the issue to the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, and as well to the OSCE Office for Freedom of Press. They are issuing a legal opinion soon enough about the specific legislation proposal.
5 years in jail if I write on Facebook that I disagree with a political view?
Okay, Rosie, let me remind you that a letter that reached the Committee of Financial Expenditures came out to light by newspapers, and the day after, the Attorney General came out saying that, may I remind you that when you publicize documents, you have to deal with this time of jail and these penalties, etc., etc. So, imagine if every time a journalist has something, a document in front of him that will give us knowledge of something that was going on behind the scenes, not to publicize it because we'll be afraid of being prosecuted. We are a democracy. We cannot be limited in action by this kind of mentality.
And this from a government that came to power touting how much it would promote transparency.
Well, for me, transparency, accountability are values that cannot be questioned in our country. That's why we say we are a democracy. If these values do not exist anymore or are questioned, let's say, then we're not talking about a democracy. We're talking about something completely different. We're talking about eras we want to forget about.
We're talking actually about how dictators work, aren't we?
Exactly, because they don't want the people to speak freely. So instead of giving the people more freedom, we're going to take that away from them. And listen, the problem is that, for example, if you see a picture of someone with a comment, who's going to decide that this comment is inappropriate? Especially when it's the truth, but it might be diminishing for the person in power. If those who serve the institutions are not careful of their friends, of what they're doing, of how they enjoy their life, is it people to blame if someone brings the truth out about what they're really doing in their private life? That's being exposed in a public areas, because who is your friend might have a lot to do with decisions you make. I think you got my point.
I definitely got your point. I'm wondering how your colleagues in our parliament are thinking about and discussing this. I mean, have you got any insight into the way the thinking process is going?
I will be straightforward with you. I was really surprised to find out that this discussion was going on for 3 years, 10 different sessions, and yet in April 2024, we had this new bill based on the previous one, which included the same undemocratic approaches when it comes to limitation of speech. And then we heard the president of the committee saying that in September it will be forwarded to plenary in order to get a vote on this bill. So what have they been doing for so long? I honestly do not know. I was really surprised.
Well, the other thing that bothers me, Irini, can I just interrupt there? The other thing that bothers me is that, of course, this will affect politically exposed people. That's people like you, people sitting in our parliament, people sitting on the bench, for example, and, as you mentioned, the Attorney General's office. So if they are the people who could benefit from this, are we in clear and present danger of this going through?
Okay, Rosie, I've heard them arguing about their concerns, my colleagues in the parliament, that their concerns are the innocent civilians, the innocent people, the vulnerable people. Okay, that's not the truth. The truth is that political figures, people in power who hate people to criticize them, they are trying to get a positive vote on this bill. This is the only truth. We have legislation for bullying, we have legislation for hate speech, we have different kinds of legislation that we can focus on if we want to enhance the protection of the vulnerable people. This is not the case. This specific bill is not the case. They want to protect themselves. I've been exposed many times. I have people saying nasty things about me many times. But this is not the way to go.
No, and it's right that people should be able to criticise. I don't agree with the nasty things because there is a lot of misinformation, but trying to muddle all this up with transparency is, well, to me, tantamount to criminal.
And also, another aspect, they argue that, okay, we're going to prosecute those who criticize and they know who they are. Many accounts on X platform and other platforms are fake accounts, and Twitter, X platform, has many times refused to give any single detail about the owner of this platform. So, isn't this a discrimination to go after the people who have the courage to write, signing their statements, and not being able to touch those who use fake accounts? So what are they going to do? They're going to create a huge mess.
And they're going to actually go after journalists, aren't they? It's terribly worrying. We will talk again, I hope, in September, Irini, when hopefully our parliamentarians will knock this down.
Yeah, but I have to make a point here that the Association of Lawyers in Cyprus, they said that if that bill went through, that meant that the sources of journalists would be at stake.
That's the bottom line, isn't it? Many thanks for your time, Irini. Keep battling on all our behalves, please, and we'll talk again, hopefully, in the autumn.
I would do so. And I have to tell you that the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the Office of Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, will come to Cyprus early September, maximum mid-September, to present the legal opinion on this bill. And you will have the chance to meet them at a press conference and ask them directly questions.
Many thanks for your time, Irini. That is Irini Haralambidou, our AKEL MP in the House of Parliament, who's been fighting for years about transparency and is very much opposed to this proposed new law. Thank you, Irini.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
And joining us now is the chairman of the board of ACTI Project and Research Centre. She is Xenia Loizidis. She's been working for years about our coastal erosion because she is an expert in that subject. And there's a huge outcry about the breakwaters that are being built, particularly, I think, Xenia, in the Paphos area. Will you enlighten us?
Well, actually, there were four studies or action plans or master plans, I would say. One was covering the area from Pomos to Polis Chrysochous. The other was in Potima, which is a bay in Paphos. The third was from Pervolia, Cabo Kitty to the Salt Lakes of Larnaca, and the fourth was within the bay where the Ayanapa Harbor is, which is called Pantahu area. It's this excellent, amazing bay with this golden sand. So for these four areas, there were plans to construct chains of breakwaters, offshore breakwaters, and, which for me is the word, destroy all the beach rock, take it out, and add quarry material, sand from quarry, as a beach nourishment. You understand that all of these approaches, I would say, twisted, and there's nothing to do with the declarations on green shift, and they are, of course, against any kind of precaution of consideration on the climate crisis that we are going through. So what happened, the Department of the Environment invited me to give my expert view for the three areas, which is Potima, Pervolia, and Ayanapa. And of course, my view is absolutely negative. And there was another study from another colleague. His expert view was requested from the Department of the Environment for the area of Pomos, Polis Chrysochous, and the view of my colleague was also negative. So until now we know that the breakwaters of Pomos, Polis Chrysochous have been rejected. They were not licensed. And we are waiting for the areas that my expert view has been, I delivered my expert view, a report, and we are waiting for the result for these 3 areas.
Podima is the area that I think has been touted for another marina, isn't it?
Podima, yes. Yes. Podima is a big bay in Paphos, the central part of which has been around more than 15 years or even more. A marina has been planned, investors have been found to construct a marina, and as far as I listened from the Deputy Minister of Tourism yesterday or the day before yesterday, this plan is proceeding. Instead of investing in sustainable tourism, we still invest as a country in marinas, which is actually, it is not a way to promote nautical tourism. We all know this, Rosie. The marinas serve developers. Through the marinas, developers can have development in areas that were water before, because there is expansion of the land, I would say, and villas are built within the sea, in the sea. So this is absolutely real estate and development, and we are destroying our island, because Cyprus is a small island, and the resilience of the island is so vulnerable. We have the marina in Agianapa, the marina in Protaras, which I think will make the worst will have the worst impact in this area. We have the marina of Limassol that people in Limassol it's been years that they see the impact with the gathering, the concentration of pollutants, of litter, and of jellyfish. So all these are results from the marinas, but we still invest in marinas.
Well, I think that's because it's an excuse, isn't it, for developers like in Larnaca to say, well, we'll leave the marina bit for a while, but we'll build the residences. So it's all a bit of a con. But let me ask you about the breakwaters and the effect that they have on coastal erosion, because that's hugely important, isn't it?
It is. As I'm usually saying, breakwaters are one of the solutions, and it is a hard solution. It is like as if you are having a flu and you are requesting an open heart surgery. This is the analogy. So our coast might have several problems. All the problems like erosion, and put this in brackets, that we have in Cyprus is man-made, is because we construct, we have harsh constructions within the buffer zone of the coastal protection area. That's why erosion mainly is the reason for erosion in Cyprus. So we destroy our coast because we construct hard structures, and then we keep constructing hard structures, hoping to improve the situation. It is a vicious circle of destruction, and it's going on. Now, what happens with the breakwaters? Breakwaters concentrate sand, sediment, as we say, in front of them, between breakwaters and the land, and these areas become very shallow. So there is concentration of pollutants, of bacteria, of litter. That's it. That is how things operate. So, but they also concentrate sand. This sand is the sand that is missing from downstream coastline, which starts to become more eroded. So this is the idea. This is how it works. There are several other solutions, more soft rather than breakwaters, and there are areas the breakwaters should be prohibited. Areas that, as a country, we could develop sports like kite surf. We have unique conditions for kite surf, and kite surfers are hundreds of thousands all around the world who are looking for areas to go for this exciting sport, for example.
Yeah, the one in Pervolia is going to affect that, I know. But can I just take you up on what you said about the waters getting shallower? That presumably means that they're also much more likely to be much warmer, and that surely has an effect on the biodiversity.
The biodiversity is completely destroyed. There is no biodiversity alive within the area between the breakwaters and the coast.
And the seagrasses, are they impacted as well?
The seagrass, if you are talking about Posidonia, Posidonia meadows, which are protected by the Barcelona Convention, and they are the most important habitat of our seas, are usually in deeper waters. You find Posidonia meadows in waters deeper than 5 meters usually. But yes, in areas where Posidonia meadows exist, we have the dead leaves of Posidonia trapped in the area between the breakwaters and the coast. So we have the trapping of the dead leaves of Posidonia, which gradually degrade, and they give this smell of hydrosulfate, which is like it's not very pleasant.
Yeah, that nasty rotten egg smell. And I think that has been a problem. But let's come back to what you said about the soft options. What should we be doing to protect our coastline from erosion, apart from obviously not building more things on top of it in concrete?
If we don't build things, we will not have erosion, because this is how coast works. The coastal zone, the coastal area has a smooth slope, so wave energy is dissipated naturally. We might have some temporary phenomena of erosion, incidents of erosion, during extreme weather conditions and during extreme storms. But if we don't build on the beaches, if there are no any concrete or backwaters or any groins or vertical walls or hotels within the buffer zone, then gradually the coast will be rebuilt again. So number one is to stop constructing hard structures within the coastal zone. Then there are hundreds of different kinds of solutions depending on the problem, Rose, because each coast has its own character. It's not there's not like having paracetamol. It's not a medicine for all. So this is why coastal engineering is considered one of the most dynamic parts of engineering, because we need to study each coast different and find the reasons of if we are studying erosion, the reason of the erosion, and then try to provide remedies for the cause of erosion, the reason of erosion.
And I suppose the currents in the sea also have an impact and are affected if we start putting breakwaters.
Yes, definitely, yes. It's the destruction of the coastal system, the dynamic, the morphological, and the biodiversity. Mind you that to make this, to construct these breakwaters, we need to bring down mountains of limestone, which is precious, to put it in the sea, to construct the breakwaters, which are destroying the coastal area. So we are destroying our very few mountains to destroy our seas.
It does seem to me that it's a typically human, shall we say, arrogance to think that we can improve on nature.
Well, it's a matter of culture, I think, in this case, to give a terminology of what each means with the word improvement, because according to myself, nature cannot be improved, it's perfect. But for several hotel owners or local communities, not only Cyprus, generally, a coast shouldn't be sandy. So by destroying the beach rock and bringing quarry material, which will leave suspending sediments and will have this not clear water. This is improvement because they can put some beds and umbrellas on the coast. So I think it's a matter of culture to realize that nature is what we have, nature is what we should protect in order to be sustainable economically, environmentally, socially. And this is what I want to say here. We cannot improve nature.
When do you expect an answer from the authorities at the Department of the Environment about the other studies and whether or not these other breakwaters will be allowed to be put in place?
Well, I think soon. I think soon we will have results.
Did you get the feeling that they were taking your scientific studies seriously, or are they under pressure from the developers?
This time, I had the feeling that they are taking it seriously, and I'm very happy for this.
We'll keep our fingers crossed, Sonia. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and if it does get the go-ahead, we'll have to talk again about the impact that will have on some of our most beautiful parts of the coast. Many thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me.
That is Xenia Loizidis from Akti talking there about the threat to our coastline from all these breakwaters.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
And in other news this week, you may have heard a couple of weeks ago that we reported on the asylum seekers who were being pushed back into the buffer zone from the Republic. Well, the government is now being sued for those pushbacks by lawyer Nicoleta Haralambidou, who has taken on the case pro bono on behalf of 46 of those migrants. This comes amid fresh allegations of more pushbacks, as Deputy Minister for Migration, Nicholas Ioannidis, dug his heels in earlier this week and said the Green Line would not become a way for migrants to enter Cyprus. The Public Information Officer for the UNHCR is quoted as saying that the last pushback took place on Tuesday. She added that it concerns 10 people, including 4 unaccompanied minors. You may recall that in June, the European Commission told local newspapers that it was monitoring the situation and that it was in contact with the Cypriot authorities, stressing the right to apply for asylum. Haralambidou said that it's clear that the Republic of Cyprus is violating EU and international law. People should have access to asylum procedures, and the government is actively preventing this from happening. She went on to say these people are not illegal migrants, they are asylum seekers, and they come from countries where prima facie they have valid asylum claims.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
And as Xenia Loizidou mentioned in her chat with me earlier, there's an area of Cyprus that is absolutely perfect for kite surfing, and the King of Kite event attracted 120 athletes and over 2,000 spectators when it was run between August the 2nd and the 4th. It takes place on Softades Beach in the Kitty area on the south coast, and there were aerial manoeuvres, massive jumps, high speeds, and spectacular water acrobatics, according to people who went along to enjoy the spectacle. It's become an annual event at the Kahuna Surf House, and it's recognised as the world's top kite surfing championship, and is an ideal destination for enthusiasts of the sport. Now, of course, if the breakwater we were talking about earlier is constructed in that area, all of that might change. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.